Welcome back to the LCS Countdown. Now, for Week 2, the LCS has switched to patch 11.3, which saw targeted nerfs to a lot of high-priority jungle champions. Mark, let's start there.
Oh, yeah. Olaf got hit with a nerf bat. Udyr, Taliyah, Pantheon, all of them took a turn on the nerf bat, but some of them got hit harder than the others. I think in particular, Udyr's was pretty negligible. It was 5 damage per level off his aura of Phoenix Dance, which really is not impactful for your clear speed compared to the cone and stuff. So overall, I think Udyr's going to be totally fine. And when you look at the nerfs that some of the other champions took for their clear speed and stuff like that, they're going to get hurt a lot more. So of all the priority champions to get hit, he's probably the least affected and will stay firmly on top at least until the big jungle patch coming next rotation.
And I'm curious to see where Pantheon ends up, because I think this is a direct nerf to his clear speed. It was very targeted at, they said, jungle and mid. And by targeting how quickly he kills minions and monsters, obviously that's going to affect his jungle clear. And right now you kind of do have to keep up with the clear speed of other popular junglers right now. So, with where his value comes from being a flex pick and also from the global, I still think that the global part is still really important. I think he's still an excellent support pick. But in terms of jungling, I'm really curious to see where he ends up on this latest patch.
Very interesting to me that, 4 very prolific junglers can get hit, and yet, as Mark said, we expect one of those 4 to maybe even rise in popularity and priority as a result. But it's not just champions, Lauren. We also saw a couple of big-ticket items get hit as well. Most notably, we've got Goredrinker and Sterix taking nerfs.
Right, so this has a pretty big implication on Olaf jungle, not just with the nerf to attack speed, but his team fight will be worse because of the Sterix and the Goredrinker nerf, especially his survivability. But I predict that we will still see a lot of Olaf just because his clear is so good, his dueling power is still very good, and with champions like Lulu and Seraphine, he'll just be a monster in the team fight. But aside from jungle, we have top lane, and these affect 2 champions in specific, at least mostly, is Renekton and Aatrox. And I want to talk specifically about Renekton because he's been a really high priority pick, and we can see sometimes in these team fights, he'll be getting very low, but an empowered Q and a Goredrinker proc will send him from 38% HP all the way back to 80% HP or higher. And so while I do think we will see less Renekton, he'll still be a pretty good pick because aside from the items being good on him, he's just a very good pick when you combine him with junglers like Taliyah or Lilia or anything that can dive top lane with mixed damage, because Renekton has such high priority in that lane that it's really the champion itself that is strong right now, and the items made him a little overboard before, but he'll still be in a pretty good spot.
Light touches there, still expectations of play for the champions that would pick up those items specifically. I have a personal curiosity, and I want to come back to you, Alorum, as the top lane main here, rather, on Sylas. We saw Sylas with 1 game played already last week. It was Impact who picked it up. But Sylas, a couple of buffs to both the Q and the W. Do you expect this to open up more opportunities for play for Sylas, or going to relatively stay the same?
These are kind of small buffs, and Sylas is a flex pick, so if a flex pick gets a little bit better and people start to play him in both lanes, then he's just going to be really good for the draft. But overall, like with this mana buff, a little bit of damage on W, I don't think he's going to be a priority pick just yet, because he's really mainly a counter pick. When you pick Sylas, you want to make sure that you're picking it into a team that has a lot of good ults to steal, or your lane is going to be really easy. For example, when you're playing top lane, you'll usually see Sylases against Ornns, Malphites, and even Gnar, just because the Gnar ult is so good on Sylas. So you're probably still going to only see it as a counter pick option.
Niche, but stronger when it is picked, at the very least. Last, certainly not least, let's talk Seraphine. Emily, this is a champion that, in fact, we expected to see more of in Week 1 than we actually did, largely because of its presence elsewhere in the world.
Yeah, so Seraphine was really high priority in other leagues. Here we're going to see it in mid lane for a few teams over in the LCK. However, even though it was really prevalent in NA Academy and pretty much permanently banned or picked, we didn't see it as much in LCS. She was banned fairly frequently, but she still fell through pick ban a few times. even though Academy, she was still, I believe, 100% banned. And we just saw her in LEC this afternoon with Niski still playing her mid. It worked out super well in that composition. I actually really liked how they played that with a higher AP damage Lilia, because he went Moonstaff, Seraphine mid. And then there was the Lilia and a top lane Riven, and it was a really fun game from Fnatic. LCS didn't play Seraphine that much, so I don't know how much this will impact LCS. However, we're still seeing her in other leagues, and she's still been permanently banned in Academy. So
it's good to hear that Niski hasn't lost his style, even in making the trek back to the LEC. Sounds like the perfect champion for him.
It was a
to
fun
play.
composition. I had a lot of fun watching that game.
Okay, well then we'll look for maybe something similar here today in the LCS. Let's transition our conversation to the first game of the day, where we have 100 Thieves taking to the Rift opposite FlyQuest, who have shown noticeable improvement from the lock-in tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing for me is that their bot lane looked a lot more proactive. And even when they made mistakes, they were like moving around the map. They were doing things for themselves. I think you see there the deaths in their lock-in performance compared to the deaths in week 1. Obviously, that also helps if they're dying less. But, they're dying less and they're doing more things, which I really liked to see, because I feel like coming out of the lock-in, everyone was looking at this bot lane being like, I don't know how well they're going to stack up. They look like kind of a weak point. And I was really happy to see them being a lot more proactive and, dying less.
I mean, dying less in more games while doing more things sounds like a win-win-win to me. So, all signs point up and to the right. Let's keep going there, FlyQuest. But that all said, Mark, it still feels like anytime we talk about FlyQuest and generating wins, that it has to come from Jose Dioto and Licorice, of all people.
Yeah, I think while it's great to see the bot side improvements, I think that's going to help them find a lot of wins, but they're usually coming off the back of Jose Dioto and Licorice in the top side of the map. And Jose Dioto in particular, going to have a tough matchup here against Closer. Closer's stats aren't that insane, considering he did have a bit of a tough week last week where 100 Thieves were making some mistakes. But he did also flame Horizon another jungler in Dardoch, and Closer is so good about, usually finding his leads, finding ways to affect lanes while still usually keeping up his farm. Jose Dioto has been a little bit more farm-oriented, and so I think a lot of this game is about how well FlyQuest laners are going to stack up to this kind of really aggressive early game dive that we've seen out of 100 Thieves so far, and, if Jose Dioto can reach his big item power spikes without his team being fallen behind.
Well, Lauren, let's zero in on that top lane matchup. Licorice, Someday. Can Licorice do more for FlyQuest than Someday can do for 100 Thieves?
So we saw last week in an interview with Licorice that he was talking about how in his entire career he had been slotted into teams that were already really good. So it's not like he had to step up and just be the primary carry for his team. And it's the opposite for Someday, where he found himself on kind of mediocre or just okay teams. And a lot of the times, if Someday had to win, he had to be this enormous threat. And now I feel like the roles are just kind of flip-flopped, where Licorice is this veteran of FlyQuest, and he needs to fulfill the old role that Someday had to do, and Someday fulfills the old role of Licorice. So it's going to be interesting to see if Licorice can do that Someday performance on FlyQuest, and see if Someday just sits back and lets 100 Thieves do their job, or if he's going to kind of match that aggression.
I think what's really interesting is looking at the solo kills versus solo or isolated deaths per game, and Licorice was basically double in both of those categories over Someday, and it speaks to the fact that that pressure that he feels to make plays happen. You kind of put yourself out there, you might get that kill, but you also might end up dying, and I think that's why you do see more solo deaths out of him right now for Licorice. But it's not like 100 Thieves have been perfectly clean either. They did int a lot of dives last week. They had to make a lot of comeback victories to get their good record. So there's still that concern for 100 Thieves that they need to clean it up a little bit.
Right, perfect record. They didn't get there perfectly, though, to say the least. But again, either way, it's made for some very exciting games, and why the top lane might be very interesting to watch in this first game of the day today. Let's get an update on the B Quest, doing some good for the environment while also taking names out there on the Rift. You can see here the update for the week. This includes Academy as well as their LCS performances. So already, because of their Academy performances this week, they've added $197 onto the total, bringing it to just over $1,300 so far raised for the B Conservancy. Love to see good being done out on the Rift. Again, it's kills, it's Ocean Drakes, and it's victories for FlyQuest. If you like the world we live in, you're rooting for those three things. All right, prediction time. Let's see if the three of you think FlyQuest has what it takes to take down 100 Thieves and hand them the first loss. No, you did not. Simple as that. But I do see one distinct difference coming in the third game of the day. Emily. Okay, actually, this is surprising because Emily's the oddball in game 3, but I would have expected C9 to be very clearly favorites in that game. So, I mean, Emily, would you not agree? I assume that's why you went for Cloud9.
Yeah, I mean, I think C9 have been looking really good. Obviously, I think EG will be able to deal with their top side. I don't expect Impact to take TP, Ignite. So that's another thing that we can point out about that matchup. But yeah, I really like the way C9 have been playing. So I'm actually kind of surprised that that's where we differed.
Yeah, Lauren, Mark, what's why the inkling that EG is going to come out on top in that one?
I flipped my coins. Jizuke came up heads up. I'm feeling great about it. Like Emily said already, the free top lane ints aren't going to go their way. And Jizuke has actually been good. He's not been a coin flip player this year, so I actually do think it's pretty close.
All right.
I'm almost the exact, or I am the exact same. I think C9 has gotten a lot of free kills off these Ignite TP Camille's where they just go up there level 2, free frag, and then just continue on with their day and snowball the game. But EG, they're not 5 bums, right? They can play the game just fine. And so I think they're pretty consistent too from among the top teams, while C9 has seemed a little less consistent. They've had really good and really bad moments, while EG I feel is just kind of like a straight arrow in that they can just play the game they want. If they don't feed, then I'd give it to EG.
All right, okay. If nothing else, I hope what Mark says is true. We get no Ignite TP top lane and at least CC9 challenged in that fashion. That, of course, is the third game of the day. We're going to kick things off with the first, though. So handing it over to Captain Flowers and Azale to get us into game 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to week number 2 here at the LCS. My name is Clayton Captain Flowers Reigns. I am joined once again by the man with the most sage advice and most wonderful wisdom, Mr. Isaac Azale Cummings Bentley, joining us here for the first 3 games today. And I am excited for some League of Legends, my friend.
I am really excited too, man. You know, we're going to get to see EG later. You know, they're not just 5 bums, as Lauren just let us know. So that should be a good game. But I think we have a lot of fun games here today. Kicking it off with FlyQuest 100 Thieves should be really interesting. I've got my eyes on the top lane as well. The analyst has talked a lot about Licorice and Someday. I do think that, you know, Licorice in particular is really trying to prove himself on a new team. He's in a very different situation than he has been for the rest of his career, where he was always on Cloud9, you know, competing for the title, expected to be at the top, surrounded by stars. And this is much more of a development roster here. So, you know, he has got to try to really step into the role of the hard carry, I think, at times, to try to overcome some of these really strong teams like 100 Thieves who they're going to be going up against today.
Well, let's see how the drafts will look different this week, because remember, we are now playing on 11.3 with all the changes that encompasses. So Gragas, Hecarim, Twisted Fate, they're all banned away. Let's see where else they want to target here. Pantheon also banned out. What's it going to be for the last couple here?
I would think that Galio is going to get banned away by FlyQuest. All 3 games against 100 Thieves last week, Demonte had Galio and TF banned against him. If you leave Galio up, to me, that kind of says FlyQuest has some sort of plan to answer it in lane. You can go a different way if you want to look towards some of the OPs, but it does feel like that was the answer that people had against 100 Thieves, banning out the globals. And I do think as a result, 100 Thieves did look a lot worse last weekend than they did in lock-in. Yes, they started off 3-0, but it was in some very, very long games. The first 2 had an average game time of 48 minutes, and they weren't really turning in those dominant early games that we had come to expect.
That is a long time to be playing some League of Legends. Maybe they can close it out a little bit quicker here in this second week. But Udyr is the first pick for 100 Thieves. We'll see Closer piloting that one. FlyQuest instantly responding by picking up the Seraphine. This champion is incredibly powerful in a couple of different roles right now. The ulti, one of the strongest teamfight tools in all of League of Legends. And we get to see the Chad Melee Meatball versus the Chad Melee Meatball in the jungle. It is Udyr versus Olaf. It is a contest of who's going to run at you better.
Yep, should be interesting. I mean, we talked about 11.3 on the desk. They're talking about some of the nerfs that did come through. Gordrinker, Sterix have been nerfed. These champions individually have seen some nerfs as well. So I'll be interested to see how powerful the Olaf does look. But I think Olaf with Seraphine behind him is going to be pretty effective. The W speed up as well as the shield and heal that can come from the empowered one. The double cast of that W is really, I think, what makes Seraphine so strong. I was going to say Seraphine can actually be a legitimate three-way flex, support, bot, and mid, but with the Zir coming through, it is going to be played by either Johnson or Diamond. We don't know yet if it's going to be farming or just played support, but I think legitimately, at the very least in solo queue, it is incredibly powerful in those three roles, and I think there's no reason it shouldn't be in pro as well.
Well, let's see how the second part of the draft shapes up then, shall we? We've got Gnar banned away, Kai'Sa banned away, so Kai'Sa gets to maintain her throne here in the world of AD carries as we move forward across the patches. Gnar also still being a point of contention. FlyQuest has one more to go here. All three of their opponents' champions are very much not flex picks. We know where all this stuff is going. So FlyQuest knows they have to target one of the two bottom lane roles here, and they will ban out another one of those very effective supports in the Leona.
Yep, banning out some of the engage here from Huhi, but we know he loves playing some of the other ones as well. Like Alistar is still available. FlyQuest could theoretically grab that if they want to have Seraphine as the farmer, but you have Alistar available, you have Set available, which is a Huhi special. Nautilus is still up. Licorice going with the GP here as the answer to Renekton is pretty interesting, and Senna, another really strong champion these days. This is very likely going to be fasting Senna since it's paired alongside the Tahm Kench. You can still play the standard farming route, but I actually think that the supportive style of Senna is just stronger right now because you can get so many souls so early when you don't actually have to focus on farming. You can just be farming the souls off of your opponents. The minions that you don't actually CS have a higher chance to drop souls themselves, so you can get to these ridiculous rates of soul farming very, very early on. This is looking like Maokai Seraphine bot lane. I think it is going to be Maokai support, but theoretically it could be a farming Maokai with the Seraphine, just actually poking and prodding and kind of fulfilling the same style of role that we're seeing 100 Thieves do. So I will be interested to see who is actually going to take the farm. I would expect to be Seraphine. I do think that Maokai may have a little bit more trouble farming against the Senna if you were going to have him be the farmer, but I think both can work, and this is a pretty interesting draft here from FlyQuest. They're one of the only teams in NA that has been going to Seraphine quite a bit. I do think it is really strong, and both teams really want to do fairly similar things. I think FlyQuest has a little bit more flexibility in playing side lane through the GP if Licorice is having a good game. But both teams, I think there could be a lot of focus down towards that bottom lane. Both teams eventually do want to group and 5v5. Anytime you're playing with Seraphine, that is the goal. And you look at the other side, Udyr, Renekton, Orianna, Senna TK, they want the team fight for sure. So it's going to be down, I think, a lot of the time just to execution, who can play these better. And if Licorice can maybe pull someday into a side lane and just use his ultimate to actually assist the team in a 4v4, I think that may be a better situation than a straight up 5v5 for FlyQuest.
And holy hell, talking about 5v5s, man, the Wombo combo on FlyQuest, you're looking to set things up. You can immediately get a slow onto everybody with the GP ulti. Seraphine follows it up with her own ult. Remember that Seraphine's ult extends off of allied champions and enemy champions together. So if Olaf or Azir is diving in there, she can use them to continue the length of that spell, set everybody up. That immediately turns into a Shurima Shuffle combo. By the time they've go up in the air and fall back down on the ground, Maokai's coming in with the roots. The 5v5 synergy here between these champions, the potential is through the roof, man.
And I'd also say, to add to your point about the GP, the setup for Seraphine also makes the Seraphine E, even if it's not, empowered, that double cast, that makes it a root because that slow does work for Seraphine. So there is the innate synergy there. Maokai also has slow with the sapling, slow with the Q. They're slow from the axes on Olaf. They're slow on the Azir Q. They're slow on the GP barrels. Like, there are so many slows on this team that actually does matter more when you are playing with Seraphine because you can turn the slow into a root into a stun. So pretty interesting here. Does look like it will be just the farming Seraphine and the fasting Senna kind of as expected. So should be pretty interesting. I don't expect it to be like a really action-packed bot lane, but I do actually like the 100 Thieves side of it. When you're looking over, anytime you're playing a fasting Senna, and there's champions that you can farm kind of easily off of. When you're playing in a melee champions, it feels really good because I do expect FBI to be able to get a lot of souls off of this Maokai. Anytime you step forward to use that relic shield, you are going to get auto-queued. You are going to be giving away that free AD and bonus range.
And one thing I'm looking forward to a lot about this matchup that honestly has nothing to do with what's going on the Rift is these two junglers going head-to-head, because both of these junglers are imports from smaller regions, and both of them have such incredibly passionate fan bases that when you're watching one of these games in Twitch chat, it is always just constantly spammed with support for either Jose Dioto or Closer. So the fact that they both have the chance to pop off and slam the other guy and make their fans be wrong, I am looking forward to the fan wars between Jose Dioto and Closer in this one, because both of these guys can just be so important for their team's success.
I agree, man, and it's a great example of how global of a sport League of Legends is becoming. And FBI is playing this very aggressively. You know, anytime Sapling is used, that's all they've got. And the cooldowns on Seraphine at level 1 are incredibly long. So the initial start of these trades is FBI kind of taking a lot of damage, and you're thinking, okay, well, is this really worthwhile? But there's not much extension from there, right? So he's already forced out both the pots from Johnson. He's got a potion off of Diamond. And look at Johnson's mana. Johnson's mana has actually been taxed very heavily. Exactly, because he's forcing the trade. So Johnson can't just hold his spell and lose the trade hard. He's got to fight for it. So the way that FBI is playing this lane, and he's doing it almost 1v2, because who he is just sitting back and farming, is really showcasing the power of that fasting Senna, the ability to have the freedom to actually, fight constantly, proc your support item. You get so much gold income if you're constantly procking it like this. And because they picked second and they, knew that they were going to be playing into the Seraphine, there's not an incredible amount of threat for the Senna. Senna is positioning beyond the minions oftentimes here just to maximize that soul consumption. And Closer now down here at level 4, they're going to get zoned off this wave. I mean, Johnson is just having to base.
They're just making sure that Johnson and Diamond cannot play the game at all. I mean, what is Johnson going to do in a situation where they try to defend underneath that turret 2v3? He's got 200 health and no mana. That's a lot to be losing out on here. I really like what we're seeing from 100 Thieves.
I mean, this is just beautiful. And this is FBI, who's known for his strong laning, but now he doesn't have to farm. He just only gets to harass, and Someday up here looking in trouble.
Oh, Someday gets himself away here with the slice and dice. Jose Dioto using the flash to chase after him, but missing the first axe means Someday manages to get away. So flash for flash trade up here in the top lane.
Yeah, it is a short change there on that first axe, as you say. Johnson did have TP, so he is back here now, but now he has no TP. And remember, he's not playing heal, so there is the possibility of him just getting burst down. Diamond also getting pretty low, and Johnson straight after teleporting, already down to half HP, so looking rough.
Okay, Jose Dioto again investing into the top lane. Licorice moving forward. Someday is gone, baby. We were talking about Licorice needing to have a carry performance here on a roster that is made up of a bit more new players. Well, there you go, man. First blood in the top side.
Really nicely done. And they actually are going to have to push out this wave, though, because the wave is pushing away from Licorice. That looked to me like Someday stepped back to try to get the slice and dice, but actually misconnecting with the Olaf. So we'll have to check on this one more time, because I only saw one activation of the E. Did he actually step back? No, he missed it. So that's exactly what happened. So that is a really nice play from Jose Dioto. You notice when Someday moved towards Jose Dioto had the presence of mind to move back away from him, to deny that second activation of that slice, so he couldn't actually get away. Had he connected with that, even though Jose Dioto would have got an extra auto in, Someday would have survived, right? So that is a really heads-up play from the Olaf, and something you just love to see, to have that presence of mind in these tough situations.
Jose Dioto getting it done here in the top lane, but the gold between the teams is still even, my friend, because the farm is favoring 100 Thieves. Down there in the bottom lane, Tom Kench has 39. Seraphine only just now hitting 30 as another wave collides into the turret. And that big old catfish, you said it, man, he doesn't have a worry in the world. His job, don't miss the last hits, because Senna is just 1v2ing the player versus player aspect of this matchup.
I mean, it's rough, because what do? Do you jump forward as the Maokai onto the Senna? No, then you're just going to get actually the stacks on you from the Tom Kench, and Tom Kench is going to be able to gobble you up. You will lose that all in. So I just think this has been a brilliant laning phase here from 100 Thieves. And you can see FBI, we're 6 minutes in. He's got 25 souls. Make it 26.
Holy cow,
this is insane, right? He's already passed that first range upgrade. This kind of pace is frightening to see, because this is truly a champion with infinite scaling. And if you can lock your opponents into this laning phase where you are just constantly farming souls off them, constantly upgrading that support item. I mean, he's already got his support item upgrade in, so he's got a Sightstone already at 6.5 minutes.
Super scary stuff, and especially, I mean, Licorice is playing Gangplank. The barrel minigame is a lot more difficult when you constantly have to worry about the positioning of the first barrel because it's always in range of Senna if she has 150 souls.
She's just a turret, yeah.
Yeah, she's just shooting the barrel from 800 units away. You're like, ah, well, guess you outplayed me.
Yeah, man, it's definitely tough. You know, earlier today, there was an LEC game where Reckless had something like 220, 240 stacks, so you can really get to these disgusting numbers if you are constantly laning against champions that is easy to farm off of and then constantly skirmishing throughout the game. We also see sometimes, you know, in the slower stages of the game, these fasting Sennas will actually just follow around their jungler a little bit to pick up all the bonus souls that do drop from those camps. As they go on Monte.
Demonte with the flash out to keep himself safe from the ulti coming in from Azir there. Palafox, I like the fact that he went for it, man. Yes, he doesn't have the ulti anymore, but hey, flash is a very long cooldown. Just bring Olaf back here in a couple of minutes once that ulti's ready to go again and see if you can find the moves. But with Closer hanging around here, might be able to go for a play on Palafox, but not with that control ward in the way. Not yet anyway. Palafox getting back out, doesn't have to use his own flash, is completely out of mana, so a reset should be on the menu here pretty soon.
Yeah, you can see he wants to stick around and push out this one wave because he doesn't have teleport. I mean, if he died to a gank there, that would have been pretty bad because Udyr sat and cleared his full pink ward beside him. So if you get taken off guard by that, that's like me playing top lane. You hate to see that happen.
A little bit unlucky, but hey, it didn't happen, so we don't worry about it. 100 Thieves still commanding themselves a nice gold lead here. They got that first Drake too. The farm difference in the jungle is pretty darn evident, my friends, 67 to 49, and it's not like that's the case with all Closer's camps being down and Jose Dioto still having to do a whole round of farming. Closer still has the entire bottom half of his own jungle he can go after, but his priority is on the Rift Herald right now.
Yep, and a lot of that farm advantage is because Jose Dioto spent so much time up on the top side, right? He wasn't actually being efficient with his farm. He committed to a gank early on Sunday and then waited around to try to punish post-flash being forced. They did get that punish, but now so much emphasis has been put onto Licorice, and the bot lane is going so well for 100 Thieves that there's a lot of pressure on Licorice to be able to not just stabilize at this advantage, but to be able to extend it, right? He has to have a strong game where he's winning in the side lane, where he's pressuring someday, because I feel like if he's not having that, then things are looking rough because Jose Dioto is quite behind in the farm. Their bot lane, despite the fact that the farm is fairly even now, has given up so many souls. As this is looking risky for Someday.
Yeah, Licorice doing a good job there, managing to make sure he falls back enough that Someday isn't comfortable committing any further to the trade, and then the extra parlay on the back end of things. I mean, Someday's not feeling too hot about sticking around in this lane too much longer. Clear out the wave, go ahead, go back to base, come back with the TP.
To me, that was a good example of the power of vision, because when you look at the map and you realize, okay, Licorice actually has 0 wards on that entire half of the map, then you kind of understand why he didn't go further, because at the very least, like, if he has that info, you drop your ult on Renekton's head. He was 1 Q away from dead, so even just dropping the ult on his head is pretty much a guaranteed flash. Because if he doesn't flash there, you catch up, you Q him, he dies with the grass proc. So you can see that Someday, because they had denied that vision, because he had the ward protection, he felt safe to be a little bit more greedy with it. And Licorice, you know, who is currently playing weak side of the map with his entire team on the other side and no vision around there, didn't have the confidence to chase. So as a result, can't actually get nearly as much of a punish as he would have liked to in that situation.
Well, now that the cameras brought us back down here, let's go ahead and check in with our friends in bottom lane, because Closer has once again decided that FBI is slamming these guys, but just not quite hard enough. So let's give them a little bit more help down here in bottom lane. FBI going to have Shelly just charge up right next to that turret right beside him. And there you go, first turret bonus over to 100 Thieves, complete with every single plate. Senna CC lands at maximum range, but they cannot chase their opponents here any further. But man, FBI and Huhi are feeling great about how things are moving in so far. Palafox going in. Beautiful placement of the wall means Demonte's got nowhere to go. Palafox nearly dies in retaliation. The man's got 100 HP, and FBI says thank you very much for the free kill.
Nicely done there by FBI, picking up the return kill. It was a good aggressive play, one that they had to capitalize on because they forced the flash with that earlier ultimate. So if you do not go back on this timing, you really haven't gotten anything from it. As you said, beautiful placement on the initial ult here from Palafox, scooping Demonte not only to Jose Dioto, but blocking his ability to actually retreat back. The only problem here came when Palafox moved a little bit too close to the tower. He took a second tower shot. You know, he was hit by the ultimate from the Orianna there as well. And then FBI, just a really nicely placed ultimate to pick up that kill. So he is ridiculously strong. He's fully completed his support item. He's got the Kraken Slayer. He was well above 50 stacks last time I saw him clicked on, so he nearly has his third ranged upgrade. And he is going to be really, really a problem in these fights. But Licorice is doing great. Mid lane's going well for FlyQuest also. So they do have the solo lanes in their favor, as well as Seraphine being behind. But still, you're always going to have such an impact in those team fights. And Seraphine does have the Moonstone online.
Yeah, in the current state of the game, Sumday's farm is abysmal. He is lower than both junglers. He's lower than Tom Kench. I mean, to be fair, that sentence sounds more vicious than it otherwise is because Tom Kench is the one doing the farming in bottom lane. I just sort of wanted to be facetious about it. But at the end of the day, Sumday's having a rough time here on the Renekton. He is very far behind the curve of the game. He's, what is this, 40 CS behind the average of all the other farming laners, with the exception of maybe Seraphine, who's also been having a rough time. So this Gator's going to take a while to come online.
And the other thing you have to remember is that Renekton is not a champion with utility, right? It's not like if you're behind on a Tom Kench, well, you can still kind of protect your teammates and you can still fulfill your role. Seraphine down on farm a bit. Sure, it's not as nice, but you have so much value in the team fight from buffing up your members, you know, utilizing the Moonstone passive there for all the bonus healing. Renekton really just has to do damage. Like, you're always going to have the point and click stun. That's something. But if you don't have enough levels, enough gold under your belt to actually survive when you dive in, you end up just giving over a lot of gold to your opponents. There's not really a lot Renekton can do. You have to be strong. You know, he's just very dependent largely on a strong laning phase to get himself ahead, get the Gore Drinker Sterix, and become tanky through that combo.
But we have to remember, it is patch 11.3. Gore Drinker took a pretty massive hit on how much active healing you get out of that usage for the item, and already an Executioner's calling on Licorice to respond to that and make sure Someday doesn't get to have one of those huge hero moments in the middle of 3 or 4 enemy champions for a massive Gore Drinker pop in the heal. And now with the bottom side tier 1 turret already removed from the equation, it's FBI and He just rotating up to the other end of the map and getting things done. Applying pressure to this tier 1 now. 15 seconds remain until the turret plates completely disappear, so we'll see if that turns into a whole lot for them up there. But it's not really even about the plates. It's just about taking more and more control of the map and utilizing this incredibly powerful duo wherever they can.
And now he's fully upgraded his Spectral Sickle, so he has the full 1k gold through. So I do expect FBI to now start taking the farm here. Generally, that is what you see. Senate just focuses on getting souls, harassing their opponents, and then once you can't actually get any additional gold income from your support item, then you have to start taking CS, because at that point, you don't really have that passive income anymore. You've got to start farming and continue your progression, because a lot of the consistent damage from this team is going to be on FBI. Yes, Orianna will add it too, but Udyr is pretty much full tank. Someday is very far behind, so I think if they want to get FBI his Rage Blade, which is likely the build with the Kraken Slayer already coming through, in any sort of reasonable time, he's got to be the one picking up CS from now.
Well, we'll keep an eye on that farm. He is currently at 100 below where Johnson is, since he's not been the farmer so far. We'll see how much that gap can close with Johnson constantly on the back foot throughout this game, having to farm up underneath the turret. You can see the Leandries now coming online for Palafox. Could be a pretty important item if FlyQuest decides to fight for that next Drake that spawns in 2 minutes. Not only does 100 Thieves have the advantage in terms of turrets, have the advantage in terms of gold, but considering they were able to secure both of those early Drakes, it means that it's now up to FlyQuest to stop them from getting ever closer to that soul point. It's Infernal Soul, and that is a lot of damage when you've got something like a 1,000 range Senna potentially coming online here.
Yeah, it becomes comically easy to actually apply any sort of damage to proc that Infernal Soul. Someday just trying to get some gold. He goes to the Scuttle. That gets taken away from Jose Diodo. Now he goes to the red. Jose Diodo's going to smite this away too. Someday just not really having a fun time. His bot lane's up on the top side. Udyr's up on the top side. So Someday is just getting zoned away from this. And now Licorice should just shove this wave in, try to zone Renekton off that tower if they can keep Jose Diodo down here. You can see Palafox was cheating down towards that bot side to try to do just that. But with FBI and Hui having based, I don't think we're going to see FlyQuest push their luck. They know that Tom Kench could respond with an ultimate, and if you're trying to dive and their bot lane shows up, it's going to go bad.
And here on our screen, we can see that it's Palafox, who's the highest leveled name in the game right about now on that Azir level 12. Demonte, Licorice, Closer, someday Jose Diodo. Both of these junglers so good at farming so quickly. They are on par with all the solo laners. So all of those guys sitting around that level 11 point, having that second point in their ultis. Meanwhile, bottom lane is bottom lane. You're duo laning, you're sharing EXP, you're going to be a bit behind. But hey, we got a Drake here in about 30 seconds. And those bottom lanes will be very important for how this one plays out. Remember, if this is the first time we get to see a big 5v5 style fight, FlyQuest does have that wombo combo potential here. Even if they are behind right now in the game, just a little bit of overconfidence, some carelessness in positioning, and 100 Thieves could get punished pretty heavy.
Yep, and Someday is still pretty weak. He didn't actually complete that Gore Drinker, which is big prior to this first fight. Palafox on the flank here. He does have flash as well. He could look for a big Shurima shuffle here if he wants to try to make the play.
Closer running into the bush means that Palafox has to get back out over the terrain, make sure he doesn't get caught out there. Closer is rather low on mana, but he will lead the charge towards the Drake pit anyway. Looks like 100 Thieves will secure themselves control over this. Someday's taking out a control ward back in mid. Now he'll rotate over to the rest of the team. Drake is aggroed, but immediately impatient. Walks right back to where it spawned. Jose Diodo will eat a couple of auto attacks from that one. Both teams just trying to get their opponents to make a mistake, dancing around this objective. Closer's going after the blue buff, trying to alleviate those mana issues I was talking about. But FlyQuest sees that the enemy jungler is not near the Drake, so they're putting some damage into the health bar of the objective. They want to go after this one, be able to secure it. Closer moving his way in here, but a nice ulti's coming through. Jose Diodo and FlyQuest eating some damage on that one. Closer's right back into the pit, and he steals away the Infernal Drake. Closer gets paid on that one, but Licorice has the kill on the Demonte. FlyQuest looking to take the team fight here, but FBI over the wall with a long-range damage. It's a 1-for-1 and a huge Drake steal for the 100 Thieves jungler so far. FlyQuest still looking to maybe find some more on the back end of this fight, but 100 Thieves is too quick, and they get away.
That is such a big win for 100 Thieves. FlyQuest really needed that dragon. Not going for the previous two. They had to fight here. The shockwave comes across, and you can see the CC over on a Closer, but he sneaks back into the pit, is able to smite that away from Jose Diodo. Licorice flashing forward, though, getting that initial kill, and it looked like FlyQuest may have been able to continue on the chase here and actually finish off this fight, but 100 Thieves has those low health bars and are just barely squeaking out. FBI landing a lot of heals and Huhi flashing out in the final moments of that fight, allowing them to survive. So now FlyQuest, you've got to show up to every dragon from now till the end of the game pretty much. And it's so tough when you give up those first three. It's such a different feeling than just being down 2-1. Because you know any mistake, any pick prior to a dragon could be the end of the game. You get that permanent buff that is going to be haunting you from now until that defeat screen.
And especially since the rest of the fight doesn't amount to anything. Like, we're not getting big objectives after this. It's not like this turns into a huge gold deluge for either side. The whole story of that whole fight is who got the dragon. And man, what an important steal for Closer, 400 Thieves. Just feeling great about where they're setting in this game now. Still only having that 2,000 gold lead, which is nice, but again, you're not sending any postcards home about that one. Nobody's rejoicing over a 2,000 lead, but look at Closer, getting closer to the Dead Man's Plate. We know how these Udyr items work. It's Dead Man's Plate, it's Force of Nature. Anything with the words move, speed attached to it, Udyr likes to build, and he's continuing to maintain that farm and gold lead over his opponent here as well. Meanwhile, down in the bottom lane, we've got Senna on duty, working towards that Rage Blade. 85 stacks already collected. That is 4 range upgrades, my friend.
Yeah, it is really, really strong at this point in the game. Already, as you said, working towards that Rage Blade, should have it fairly quickly. Is picking up some of the farm now. It seems like they're doing a bit of a split. As you can see, he's up to 36 CS. So is going to be really, really strong for these team fights. And Hui is incredibly difficult to take down. That is one of the most powerful things, I think, about this style of play, is that the Tahm Kench becomes a true tank. It is not just a support there that is there to actually just steal someone away from the enemy. It is someone who can truly tank up a tremendous amount in the fights. And we saw how much damage he was able to soak from that Azir and still get out with his life around that dragon fight. It's pretty difficult to deal with and fight through.
And even in the itemization, it's not like he goes for a support item, one of those lower budget items that's designed to help the team, right? He doesn't have a locket or something similar. That is your Iceborne Frostfire, whatever they call that thing now. It has 100,000 different names over the course of its development. But the blue glove that makes things slow, we've got built by the Frog, and he's building up the dead man's plate next. These are true top lane style items for this man to be a meatball here in the front lines.
Yep. I mean, he's more of a tank than Someday is, that's for sure. Someday is pretty far behind. You know, the big advantage for FlyQuest right now is still Licorice. Licorice is doing very well in farm. He picked up another kill in that team fight. And, you know, if this game goes long, I think he can create side lane advantages. He can draw people to him, try to create odd number fights by cross-map ulting to assist his team. But the problem is, because they stole that dragon away, 100 Thieves is so close to actually, you know, securing this game potentially. So Licorice doesn't have that much time to actually split push. And doubly so, the problem I think also working against them is that they haven't really had any vision. Like, look at the wards from FlyQuest. They've got nothing across river. Literally 0 wards that are across river. They have 1 in the river, in the Barren Pit, but that's about it. So even when Licorice finds himself in these winning 1v1s, he's got no idea where the opposing team is, so he can't actually move forward and push his advantage.
And that's one of the scariest situations. It's also one of the most frustrating situations in League of Legends, to have that advantage, to be the one that your team is depending on to make the moves. But it's just such a huge risk every time, and you don't want to be the guy that throws away the lead. But now Closer's going in. Nice Senna ulti coming across everybody. Palafox already dead with a TP coming in. It's 100 Thieves immediately positioning to find the kill. Licorice thought he was coming in to help his boys, but instead he ends up in a real bad spot. Does manage to get away thanks to a very well-placed Seraphine ulti, but that is another big win here for 100 Thieves.
That's so.
And it's not just the win, it's when did they win, my friend, and they won right before the Drake. They're going after the Infernal Soul, and FlyQuest knows they must stand and contest this. Infernal Soul at 23 minutes is a hell of a thing to have to deal with. Diamond's still potentially ready to lead in here, see if he can find some CC. Jose Diodo, full HP, has the ulti ready to go. It would have to be a big steal coming out from him. He runs in with the Ragnarok, going unstoppable, but no! He will not manage to steal it away and get revenge for earlier. Instead, it's going to be Closer yet again. FlyQuest now going after the fight as 100 Thieves tries to disengage. Palafox wants to go in, but Palafox overcommits and underestimates the range that Senna's got available. 100 Thieves continue the chase with Huhi going in there on the Abyssal Voyage. That's what you were talking about, man. That's your big old catfish jumping into the back lines and making sure nobody's got an exit strategy. 100 Thieves, they take the fight, they take the soul, and they're taking Baron.
They get everything, Flowers. It wasn't even close at that fight. Palafox getting picked off was way too slow with the ultimate to actually respond. Closer just straight up ran at him and got the stun on him. They land a full combo onto him off of that, and Palafox goes down immediately. By the time he respawns, he TPs back into the fight, just dies again right off the bat. So FlyQuest have lost full control at this point. Such a costly pick here. In goes Jose Diodo trying to steal this away. The smite down to 138. It was a good attempt, but not really much happening here. And then right as Palafox returns from dead, he immediately loses 20% of his HP, flashes in there, trying to look for, I think, what was maybe an ultimate, not realizing perhaps that he didn't have it. There's no other reason to actually flash in like that. And just ends up going down once more. So Palafox trying to make up for that previous mistake, and 100 Thieves just chase him down. Udyr catching up to him, Huhi ulting in on top of that team as this full-on Tahm Kench tank. He is pretty much invincible at this point in 100 Thieves. I think they can close the game with this Baron.
100 Thieves have a brick wall front line and an AD carry with around 800 range. I'd say they are in a wonderful spot to push the issue in this game all the way to the enemy nexus.
Looking.
They're choosing to push down top side here. They've got the wave already ready to go. FlyQuest defending with a full 5-man squad. 100 Thieves does have Someday over in mid lane pushing onto the tier 2. Yes, he does have a teleport, but remember that teleport has quite a long channel time, so if FlyQuest can go for a big snappy play, they may be able to make a move before Someday can rotate over. But 100 Thieves, you know they'll be expecting that. They'll be trying to play around it. And FBI, he's going in, grabbing the kills immediately. Palafox already down now too. Licorice rotating over, trying to help the rest of the squad as DeMonte goes golden here underneath the enemy turret, flashing away and staying alive. And good Lord, man, it's 100 Thieves just getting it done nonstop.
Yeah, they're doing it all, and Someday wasn't even there. That was a 4v5, by the way, that they won very easily, take down 2 members. Someday is still pushing mid. now moving up to join up with the top lane here as they realize they could just straight up end the game. They are pushing in a minute on this Baron buff still, and FlyQuest have got to pull off some sort of a miracle hold.
And here's 100 Thieves trying to stop that miracle right here, right now. They take down number 1 Nexus turret, but the number 2 turret is still standing. Doesn't matter, though. They got plenty of minions over here in mid, thanks to some days earlier work. And that means they will get a second inhibitor now. So 1 Nexus turret, 2 inhibitor turrets, 2 inhibitors off of that Baron push. I'd say your Red Bull Baron was hella worth this time. 5,101 gold in value.
And they're not going to risk trying to end here. They decide, all right, Azir is coming back up. It's not worth the play. Diamond dies immediately. Palafox trying to go in for the scoop onto FBI, but Huhi just eats up his marksman before the Azir can connect on the ultimate. And then the play just continues with both of them down. They grab both the inhibitors. They reset to spend all the ridiculous amount of gold that they just grabbed. I mean, FBI just bought another full item here. He is really, really strong. You can see Someday even is getting to a point where he can contribute. He's got his 2 items. He's got the stopwatch. The luxury items coming in always make any potential comeback that much more difficult.
And honestly, between FBI's awesome laning leading into his good teamfight presence and then Closer having back-to-back smites on point to guarantee they were able to secure the neutral objective game, some days he's just sitting back there chilling. He'll look at his match history later. It'll say 0-1-3 victory. You just look at it, scratch your head a little bit, and say, all right, cool. It's just one of those games. Sometimes you hop in the backpack and you get yourself carried. I'd say the boy's done enough heavy lifting in his day. He deserves 1 or 2 of these now and then. But 100 Thieves and FBI continue to push up in the last remaining lane that has an inhibitor standing. FlyQuest is already in a nearly unwinnable position, and now they're charged with somehow figuring out what the highest percentage play is. And all those percentages are incredibly low right now, Isaac.
Yeah, Johnson going to be sent back to base off of that poke from FBI, the ultimate coming across. And now that the super minions are in the base, you can't defend at this Nexus turret anymore. So Hui's actually just going to tank it up, basically taking no damage from it. And they'll just kill off the tower with no minions there and then move forward here as it looks like Hui. Does he even have a Warmogs?
Well, the enemy team has no Seraphine ulti left, and considering that is essential to their 5v5 success, this one's pretty done and dusted now as they push on to the last remaining Nexus turret. The last remaining turret, period. 11 turrets spawn for each team at the beginning of a game of League of Legends, and 10 of those have just been bulldozed into the ground. 100 Thieves, they'd love to end this one right here. No 48-minute games here today, only just shy of 29 minutes on the clock. And now you got Diamond going in, immediately trying to make some sort of an initiation. Demonte is going to be killed off, but you got yourself a 1-for-1 here so far. Huhi tanking up as Jose Diodo goes for the play, but it's Palafox rooted up and shut down. Grabbing a shutdown back onto the enemy AD, carry himself as FBI drops. Some days slicing and dicing, but it's not looking too nice, and now they got to be worried about where the fight's going to go because Closer's running himself away, and FlyQuest will make the stand.
What a hold from FlyQuest, able to knock down FBI there, and it looks like they're just going to rush straight over towards this Elter, but it's Johnson left alone to clear all of these supers. I don't even know if he's going to be able to keep up with this with the wave clear required. Hui could potentially just TP into the base, to be honest with you. The res timer up for Johnson now. He's going to go, yeah.
It's the Ninja Kinch. He's jumping behind enemy lines.
Okay,
He's
Licorice
trying to create some craziness and some discord, and now he whistle voyages elsewhere. This Kinch is the Kinch that you're warned about. This is the Kinch that changes games. Now he's going after Jose Diodo here with a 1v1, but it's not a 1v1. He's getting a couple of TPs with another TP coming back. Demonte's made his way into the fight. He throws out the ball, but he gets hit by the charm. Johnson providing the CC, but they aren't able to grab themselves a smite. And now FlyQuest took the Elder Drake. Demonte kites away. He's going to eat a lot of damage here. Shield keeps him out of the threshold for the execution. Jose Diodo unstoppable here with the Ragnarok. He's trying to run himself away. Demonte is down. Johnson is down. Jose Diodo's on the run. Oh, Jose, I don't think you're going to be getting too much of anywhere on this one, brother. The damage comes in, the tongue flies out, and FBI takes the money.
He's between a crock and a hard place there, Flowers. No way out for Jose Diodo. FlyQuest is going to try to make another miracle stand here. They have the Elder, but it is so tough to even clear out all these minions. Closer just walking up in their face, saying do something about it.
What are they going to do about it? It's Udyr with 3 completed movement speed items, just running around, doing whatever he feels like, going behind the Nexus, grabbing a couple of auto attacks here now. Palafox and Diamond trying to make some sort of a fight here, going in with a Shurima shovel, but a Palafox, he's already down, man. GG, well played. 100 Thieves takes him out in 31 minutes.
Nicely done by 100 Thieves. Didn't even lose a tower here against FlyQuest. FlyQuest got things going early up on that top side, but down in the bot lane, it was all 100 Thieves all the time. Demonte pumped up about it. There, it's the shadow boxing here. Gotta love the celebrations. Who won that round?
They have got to be feeling so good about this, Isaac. This team is looking great here in that game. Again, just compliments to Closer. When their team wasn't the ones in the pit already with the prio, he runs in and gets the steal. When they are the ones with the prio, nerves are completely chilled out. The man is just ice cold, and he makes sure that he doesn't end up getting it stolen back. Awesome smites around those to build up the advantage that the Thieves needed to take this game as quickly as they did, and they've got to be proud of how this one played out. It's time for us to step away here for a moment now, but once we return, we're going to join Latigris and Closer himself for the Verizon post-game interview. See y'all there.
Promo for you.
Here's the deal, Parker. State Farm offers everyone surprisingly great rates.
Yeah, right. Pepperoni pockets, an atomic brownie, cuckoo crusty.
There's no promo, it's just great rates.
And a cider ranch. You're the man.
When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Welcome back, everyone, to the LCS. We are here for a Verizon post-game interview, and I have got Closer himself from 100 Thieves. I've got to say, dude, you are a monster in that game, but I want to go back to the beginning a little bit, where you spent a lot of time down bot trying to apply that pressure. How important do you think that was to getting that bot lane ahead going into the rest of the game?
Yeah, I feel like that pretty much opened us the game because their bot lane was getting pressured a lot and Olaf wasn't farming much in early game. So I was maintaining objectives, heralds, drakes, camps, and also pressuring their bots. So it was pretty good early game for us.
Yeah, the bear slap and the smites getting there, and therefore the objectives was looking really great from your side. And
Yeah.
I was actually recently watching the most recent episode of The Heist this morning, where you were talking about how eager you are to prove that you're the best jungler, especially coming from a smaller region like Turkey. Now we see people like Jose Deodo coming in, a lot of respect being paid to the talent across the entire world. What does it mean to you to see the league evolve and also yourself right at the top of the list when it comes to junglers?
To be honest, it just motivates me seeing people talk about like hyping the other junglers or saying good things about them. It just makes it better when I crash them. So I'm pretty happy.
Speaking of crushing, though, you do have a very difficult opponent ahead. We have seen you praise him yourself. It's Cloud9. You're going against Blabber. Any thoughts you have before you head into that matchup?
Yeah, I mean, Blabber is definitely a good jungler, but it's going to be a great match for us. Hopefully tomorrow we should get the revenge. They reverse swept us in lock-in tournament, but we are still confident, and hopefully it's going to be good for us this time.
Should be a good one for us to watch in the audience as well. Closer, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.
What a fun way to kick things off here on this Friday. For more on that game, let's send things over to the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, the Tigress. Closer already has his eyes set on tomorrow's matchup against Cloud9, looking for revenge after the reverse sweep, rather, from the lock-in tournament. But Emily, I want to start in the draft because as we're on 11-13 for our very first game, we saw both Seraphine and Udyr come out in this draft. Two big topics of discussion at the top of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly a lot more surprised about the Udyr than I am about the Seraphine. If there was a team that was probably going to pick up the Seraphine, it was going to be FlyQuest, who we already saw play it in lock-in tournament when they started to look a little bit more cohesive. It's been something that we know their bot lane will play. Obviously, did not work out well for them because what ended up happening is there was a lot more pressure. They put pressure topside, and then 100 Thieves basically ran over, like Udyr was everywhere. But then also they were able to absolutely smash the entire bot side. They had full Drake control. They got both heralds by transferring their bot lane up into mid lane and then getting prio over herald, which maybe should not have happened if you have more control over top side. But yeah, I mean, I'm sad to see the Seraphine not work out. I'm happy to see the Senna, which is another pick I brought up last week. You know, fasting Senna is insanely strong, and I think we definitely saw it in this game.
Yeah, FBI absolutely crushed lane phase, and it's something where looking at the draft for FlyQuest, it's like, okay, I like the Seraphine in theory. I still like Maokai in theory, but like the way it all came together didn't really do it for me, where this is like your last pick, counter pick support to try and like help stabilize your bot side, hopefully a little bit, because, you know, Seraphine's a slightly weaker laner. And it's just a really tough matchup. And it's one hand to be like, oh, well, they lost lane because they picked a tough matchup. And then you kind of are like, well, why are you picking that? What else could you have reached for there? Because there weren't really that many bands of support. Because, like Emily was saying, topside was going great for FlyQuest. They actually were able to make a number of plays up there to really punish Someday and put him behind. It was an investment, and you are going to get some attention down the bot side for doing this. But overall, you know, if your GP is going to end up, you know, getting a kill and be up around, like, I forget what it was, like 40 CS at that point, like, you're feeling pretty good.
Right, and they did commit a lot to the top lane. In that first gank, we saw Jose Deodo kill Renekton. That was actually his second one. The first one was there to blow his flash, and then he looped around and did it again. So with the bot lane losing so hard and FlyQuest picking the Maokai, it makes it pretty much impossible to go in against the Tahm Kench. You're just going to get queued and die. With the advantage they had top lane and the disadvantage they have bot, I feel like the obvious play would be just to keep going top, and I would have liked to see Licorice blow his GP ult a little bit more aggressively on Renekton. There were a couple of trades that Someday was taking that weren't exactly favorable for him, and if Licorice had played it a little bit more aggressively, they could have potentially blown Flash and played for that top turret and potentially fighting a Herald. But instead, they just kind of, it seemed like they were kind of sitting back and waiting things to happen. They wanted to scale into late game with the Seraphine. Although if you do have that advantage with the GP, they did get the counter pick, then I'd like to see them just push that a little bit more, because if Udyr just runs around the map and gets all the objectives, you're really just sitting around waiting for 100 Thieves to make the next play while you're just sitting with your hands down your pants.
Yeah, some early attention to the top side of the map. Not how I expected that sentence to end. But Mark, really, it was the Dragons. I mean, when you're trying to identify where this game came to a conclusion, it was the Dragon fights.
Yeah, and this was just a really tough reset. They kind of pulled it and done quite well at getting it low, and it just reset at the worst possible time. That allows Closer to run in there and smite steal it away. And even though the fight doesn't go terribly from here, you know, it's basically a 1-for-1, the position in the game really hurt FlyQuest. They had fallen behind a little bit in gold, and because they lost that Dragon fight, when the next Dragon situation came up and they had such low priority around bot side, you know, this is the Drake soul at this point, they need to go in here and Closer, Jose Diodo kind of, you know, runs it down, trying to stop them from getting it, pops his ult and just trades his life, can't get the steal, and then game's basically over from there, from that combination of a bit of lack of control in the early game and an unlucky leash at the mid game.
Everyone's hands on the keyboard in this fight, and yet it'll still go the way of 100 Thieves. Picking up that last Drake, getting the buff there. I did like, I'll just call this out, I did appreciate the FlyQuest play for the Elder near the end of the game, even though it was all for naught. Another one of the, it kind of ties into that point you were making at the top of the day, Emily, but just more holistically to the team. FlyQuest is trying things. It's not always going to work out, but this is a team that already had to reforge an entire roster in the offseason. For them to be, you know, taking these kinds of risks early on in the season, at least from my perspective, I see as a positive thing, even if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this is down to execution. Even in that Drake fight where they lost third Drake, which was, you know, just kind of a series of unfortunate events, and there were some execution errors there too, you can still see the power of this team fight, right? Like, you can see the power of what is technically, theoretically supposed to happen with this draft. So, I mean, I would like to see FlyQuest continue trying new things. I think they maybe could have been a bit more proactive, like we talked about topside, like Alarum referred to, but you can see the wheels turning, and I do appreciate that.
100 Thieves, they remain undefeated through 4 games, and they have their eyes set on that Cloud9 match tomorrow. We're going to step away. When we return, we got CLG taking on Team Liquid, so don't go anywhere. Hands where I can see them, everyone.